Hi, this is Yvette Durham. For those of you who aren't familiar with me, I am a yoga teacher at Sweetwater Yoga and Fitness and also Parkside. And every Monday, it is my joy and pleasure to guide a meditation. Every week it tends to be a little bit different. We might focus on a different type of meditation or a different element of meditation. With current circumstances the way they are, obviously a lot of people are choosing to self-isolate, self-quarantine, and so this is just a way to bring you meditation. So welcome to anybody who habitually comes to my meditation Monday class, and in fact thank you for encouraging me to do this, to reach you virtually in this capacity. Also to anybody who comes frequently to our studios, so anybody who doesn't. Also to my friends and family in Britain who have expressed an interest in coming and learning a little bit more about yoga and meditation, but obviously living too far away to come to my classes at least. So this is just a great way that we can connect and come together. So this meditation, I'll just talk you through what we're going to do in this session. I'm going to keep the introduction as brief as possible, and then we're just going to have a 5-minute mindfulness meditation to begin. Going forward, if anybody actually watches this, I'd love to do a body scan, which is a way to progressively relax each body part. It's a beautiful way to slip into sleep. We can do things like loving kindness meditation. We can do meditations with some beautiful music, guided meditations, maybe meet your guardian angel. There's so much variety in where we can carry this, but it's just a way to bring meditation to you in your home. So glad you can make it, and hopefully you're still with me. Coronavirus is probably the strangest thing that's ever happened to most of us in our lives. Speaking to Mum yesterday, she's 75, she's never seen the like of this. So as we mentioned, a lot of people are choosing to self-isolate and quarantine and stay home, which is very sensible, but it's quite confrontational when we self-quarantine. And by that, what I mean is we have an epidemic of busyness. We always tend to be embroiled in the doing and in the external world, the world that exists out there, not in here, but out there. We can hop from work to picking up the kids, to their activities, to maybe your extracurricular activities, whatever it might be. There's rarely a moment where we're just still in our waking hours. And of course, even those moments where we might be having breakfast or dinner, if we're not with the family, then sometimes we'll be watching a Netflix show or looking at emails or social media streaming, whatever it might be. So technology has kind of amplified the fact that we're always stimulated in our day-to-day lives. And so things are becoming a little bit quieter. We haven't got so much external stimulation because we're staying home. And this can be confrontational on 2 points. One, because sometimes we are living in discomfort, whether that's physical or energetic discomfort at home, whether it's the actual building that we're living in or what's in it, or the people that are in it. And that can go all the way up the scale to a very toxic environment that we're living in. And now we're kind of forced into this environment that before we were able to escape and maybe pop to the pub for a pint if we're in Britain, or go for a walk in the park, or go take a yoga class, or whatever it might be. We've always been able to move away physically from that environment so that we're not confronted with it. And now we kind of just have to sit in this. And then also we're confronted with ourselves. So very often we're so distracted with what's happening in the external world that we never have to look introspectively. We never have to look internally at our internal landscape and what's going on inside our minds. But all this is becoming especially amplified, that inner monologue, that noise between the ears, because a lot of us are in a state of fear or even panic about what is going on around us. So that internal monologue is turned up, is amplified at this time. So enter meditation, and why this can be such a powerful practice to maintain if you already have a practice, or adopt if you're brand new. And this reminds me, this kind of confrontation reminds me of when we grow old. If you've ever witnessed perhaps a parent like I have, ailing and all the way through to death, or whether that's been your grandparent or another family member or friend, you notice how they are forced to transition from a mode of doing and always being busy in the external world to a world where they have to be a lot more. Their world shrinks and they might become housebound, whether that's because their body starts to break down, whether that's because of any mental incapacities, whatever it might be, their world begins to reduce, and this can be very confrontational. There's two choices. They can either resist the current conditions and pine back to the past and how things were, and that will always lead to some type of internal suffering. Or they can open to what's manifested, and not argue with the present conditions, and instead respond and sort of become more focused on being a human being and have a more introspective relationship with self. So I feel like as a collective, that's what we're being forced to do, right? We're self-quarantined, we're self-isolated, we haven't got all that noisy external stimulation, so it's us. And this is why meditation at this time is even more powerful, because it's a way to help you manage all that noise between the ears, all the thoughts that very often we tend to think we have no control over. And of course, our thoughts, especially if they're negative, or if they are negative, can pollute or affect our emotions, and in turn our emotions affect our reality and attract negative circumstances to us. So meditation is a way to really tame the mind and to move our awareness away from those thoughts and onto the present moment, where we can find peace and clarity and gratitude and joy and all these wonderful positive qualities. So today we're going to just do a 5-minute mindfulness meditation. So just a little nugget today. Next time we can do a little bit more, perhaps a guided meditation or a body scan. So let's start with the fundamentals. How do we set up for meditation physically? Now, if you're able, the best way is to come to an easy seated position with your sit bones rooted in the ground. You can cross your ankles if that feels accessible. You can have one leg in front of the other, and then begin to generate a lovely tall spine. We call this axial extension, and you're in effect stacking one vertebrae on top of the other, slightly tucking in the chin towards the throat so that you can feel that lovely length on the back of your cervical spine. You can just rest your palms in any comfortable position. You can, if you like, lie down for this meditation. Excuse me. You can lie down, but I try to encourage my students not to do so for a mindfulness meditation, because what tends to happen is that sometimes we fall asleep, and we want to try and maintain a gentle alert state as much as we can. You can also sit on an armchair or a dining chair, and the way to do this is to shuffle forward on the chair so that your soles of the feet can come flat on the ground underneath you. Your knees are stacked over your ankles, and you just rest your palms on top of your thighs, and again generate that long spine before you close your eyes. Now, what tends to happen with the spine when we're seated is that it begins to round and flex and sort of collapse. And when the body begins to collapse, so too the mind follows, and our alert state that we once had begins to collapse as well. So this front body, you can see, is contracting, and the back body is kind of pulling, and the shoulders are rounding. And this is, a lot of us, this is our habitual posture, right? Everything we do in life, day-to-day life, is forward. And when we eat, we're forward. When we type at the computer at our desk, we're forward. When we drive, we're forward. So we want to try and undo that posture. And we can apply props to maintain that lovely long spine in meditation. There are cushions, meditation cushions, that are designed for this very purpose, and I'll just show you how this works. The goal is to have your hips higher than your knees. And what this does is, when we sit on the edge of a prop like this, is it tilts the pelvis forward and automatically generates that lovely long spine. Most of us don't have a meditation cushion at home, and that's just a-okay. If you have a yoga block, can achieve the same thing. Just sit right on the edge of the block until you feel your pelvic bowl spilling forward, resting your knees and your shins down on the ground, and enjoying that lovely elongation of the spine. Don't worry if you haven't got a yoga block, because a rolled up blanket can produce the same effect. You can roll it up as many times as you like so that you can feel that pelvic tilt. So just prop it underneath your bottom. This might feel a bit more comfortable than a block. And know that you're always free to shift if a pose becomes uncomfortable. Have your arms in any comfortable position for you, feeling your elbows just dangling underneath your shoulders. Begin to allow your eyes to gently close. And bring your awareness to your breath. We're not trying to manage or manipulate the breath in any way. We're just allowing it to be natural and free to roam. And the idea is, if we can draw our attention onto the breath, we connect, we plug in to the present moment. A place where no thought can distract us. To a place that feels peaceful and clarifying and cleansing. Free from the anxieties of the past or the future. Now know that it is the nature of our minds to wander, to get lost in the thought stream. The mind produces thoughts, secretes them just as readily as your heart pumps. So it's no indication that you're doing anything wrong if you're thinking. But what we're trying to do is, once we notice we're thinking, we gently and with a friendly attitude just direct your attention back to the activity of your breath. If it makes it any easier, you can bring your awareness to any region of your body where you experience the breath most vividly. So that might be the nostrils as you feel the swirl of air around the nose, the upper lip. Maybe even the coolness of the inhale and the warmer sensation of the exhale. Maybe you'd prefer to shine the spotlight of awareness on your shoulders as they lift with the inhale and gently shrug away from the ears with your exhale. Or maybe it's your chest or abdominal wall that you notice the most as they puff out as you breathe in, and as they draw back towards the spine as you breathe out. It's perfectly normal to feel very confronted by all the noise, all the chatter internally. That's quite normal. Sometimes we might even discover a very critical inner voice, which hitherto we haven't noticed because we've been so busy and distracted. That is not unusual at all. Most of us are quite self-critical, and this we can see how can play out into low self-esteem and anxiety. But now awareness is everything. Once we're aware of that, we can begin to cultivate a friendly and kind and compassionate relationship with ourselves. Again, keep shining the spotlight away from those thoughts and back onto the breath. You're doing wonderfully. We're just going to spend another minute or so right here. Basking in openness and receptivity, and being present with whatever arises physically, energetically. Now, as this meditation begins to draw to a close, you can allow a little bit of light in, maybe still a downward gaze. And slowly soak in a little bit more with your eyes. Bring your awareness back to your physical surroundings. It might feel welcome to stretch and remove any props from underneath you, and congratulations, you have just meditated. Next time we can do a little longer. I plan on bringing a nice guided meditation, but thank you so much for being with me in this capacity. And as we always do at Sweetwater and Parkside, we end with a Namaste blessing. So if you're willing, bring your hands to your heart, slight bow of the chin. There is a place within each one of us where the whole universe dwells. It is a place of peace and truth and love and light. And when you're in this place in you, and I'm in this place in me, we are one. Namaste.